I still remember the first time I saw an angel. Not a real one. The one I was shown. It was painted on the wall of a small church. Soft eyes, white wings folded gently, a warm glow around its face like it had just stepped out of a dream. And I remember thinking, that's what watches over us. That's what stands between us and everything dark. Maybe you have a version of that memory too. A painting, a figurine on your grandmother's shelf, a picture in a children's Bible with golden edges and careful brushstrokes. Something that made the word angel feel like a synonym for safe. Don't let go of that image yet, because the moment I stopped taking that image for granted and actually read what the witnesses wrote, in their own words, unfiltered, something cracked open that I couldn't close again. It made that memory feel like a sedative, something given to keep you calm, to keep you from asking what was actually there. Because the men who came face to face with these beings, warriors, prophets, kings, didn't smile, didn't feel safe. They collapsed. They trembled. They pressed their faces into the ground and couldn't move. And every single time, without exception, the very first words out of these beings were not a greeting. They were a warning. Do not be afraid. Which means whatever was standing there, whatever you were about to look at, made fear the automatic, involuntary, full-body human response. That is not the thing on your grandmother's shelf. Keep watching, because you're about to know exactly what these beings were actually described as, why that description scared the people in power, and how the swap was done so smoothly that generations of people lived and died inside it without ever suspecting a thing. Including you, including me, until now. But hold on, there's a question I want you to answer before I do. Where do you think the image of the soft, winged, human-looking angel actually came from? Don't answer yet. Just think about it for a second. Because most people, when they actually trace it back, are genuinely surprised. It didn't come from the Bible. It didn't come from the people who wrote about angelic encounters in Scripture. It didn't come from the mystics or the desert fathers who spent their entire lives in pursuit of the divine and wrote about it with shaking hands. It came from paint and politics. The image of the angel you grew up with was largely shaped during the Renaissance, a period of extraordinary artistic explosion in Europe, roughly the 14th through 17th centuries, when wealthy patrons, including the institutional church, commissioned paintings to fill cathedrals and public spaces. The painters were geniuses. The images were breathtaking. And slowly, across 200 years of commissions and cathedral ceilings, the angel transformed from a cosmic terror into something you could put on a birthday card. Pause here for a second, because I'm not going to tell you what to think about this. I want you to figure out what it means yourself. When you take something that ancient witnesses described as overwhelming, burning, multi-faced, and covered in eyes, and you replace it with something soft, approachable, and beautiful, what does that do to the weight of everything connected to it? Think about that, hold it, because it's going to matter in a major way before this video is over. Now let's go to the actual texts. Not summaries. The real thing. Because I think you deserve to read what these ancient writers actually said, and I think once you do, you'll understand why I find it almost strange that most people have never been shown this. The Seraphim, Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah, a prophet whose writings are among the most referenced in both ancient Hebrew scripture and early Christian theology, describes beings he calls seraphim standing above the throne of God. The word seraphim in Hebrew literally means the burning ones. Each one has 6 wings. 2 cover their face. 2 cover their feet. 2 are used for flight. Now stop right there. Ask yourself, why would a being of this kind need to cover its own face? Think about that for a second. If these beings are powerful enough to stand in the direct presence of God, why are they hiding their own eyes? Isaiah tells us their voices alone cause the doorposts of the heavenly temple to shake and fill the entire space with smoke. These are not gentle protectors watching over sleeping children. These are entities of such concentrated divine energy that even they shield themselves from the full weight of what they serve. The Ophanim, Ezekiel chapter 1 and 10. This is the description that, when I first read it slowly and without skipping, genuinely made me stop and put the text down for a moment. Ezekiel, one of the most vivid visionary writers in all of ancient scripture, whose descriptions of divine encounters read more like quantum physics than poetry, sees massive wheels in the sky. Not metaphorical wheels, enormous, physical, hovering wheels. And these wheels intersect each other, moving in any direction without turning, without repositioning, without hesitation. And then Ezekiel adds the details that change everything. Each wheel has a single enormous eye at its center. One massive, unblinking eye, staring outward from the middle of this spinning, hovering structure. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the entire surrounding surface is covered in eyes too. Not a few, not scattered, covered. So picture this yourself, because I think your imagination will do more here than my words ever could. A colossal spinning wheel, one giant eye at its core watching, and every inch of the rim around it, lined with more eyes. All open, all watching, moving in directions that shouldn't be physically possible without ever needing to turn. That is one being, and there are 4 of them. This is described in the Bible as a servant of God. The cherubim, Ezekiel chapter 1 and 10. Here is where the chubby baby angel image doesn't just fall apart, it gets completely dismantled. Ezekiel describes 4 beings, and the first thing you need to understand before I describe them is the scale. These are not human-sized figures. The wheels that accompany them are described as towering structures, which means the beings themselves are enormous. You are not looking at them, you are looking up at them. Each one has 4 faces on a single head, the face of a lion, an ox, an eagle, and a human. All 4 simultaneously on one being, facing outward in every direction at once, seeing everything, missing nothing. 4 wings. And here is the detail that I think most people skip past without realizing what it means. When these beings stand together, their wings are fully extended and the tips of their wings touch each other. They form a connected structure, a unified 4-faced, wing-locked wall of beings standing together in formation. Their legs are straight as columns. Their feet are like polished bronze hooves, and their entire body radiates. Ezekiel describes their appearance as burning coals, as torches, as fire moving back and forth between them like living lightning. But then there is one detail that, to me, is the strangest of all. Under the wings, hidden beneath those enormous, extended, touching wings, are human hands. On a being with 4 faces, bronze hooves, and a body of living fire. Human hands. I don't know what to do with that detail. I just know that Ezekiel saw it and wrote it down. And I think you should sit with it for a moment too. This is what guards the throne of God. This is a cherub, not the rosy-cheeked infant on the Valentine's Day card. An enormous, 4-faced, hooved, wing-locked, fire-radiating being with human hands hidden underneath. The living creatures, Revelation chapter 4. John, whose revelation stands as one of the most studied and debated prophetic texts in human history, describes 4 living creatures around the divine throne. And unlike the cherubim, these 4 are each distinct, each their own category of terrifying. One like a lion, one like an ox, one with the face of a man, one like an eagle in full flight. Each one has 6 wings, the same count as the seraphim. And those wings are not smooth, not feathered, not clean. They are covered in eyes. The wings themselves, eyes across every surface, looking outward in every direction. And then John adds the detail that I think is the quietest and most unsettling thing in the entire description. They are full of eyes inside and out. Inside, not just on the surface, not just on the wings. Inside the body, eyes within eyes, watching from within themselves in a way that has no biological equivalent, no human reference point, nothing you can map onto any living thing you have ever seen. Their whole appearance burns like coals, like torches, the same living fire that runs through every being in this hierarchy. They never stop. They never sleep. They cry out endlessly day and night without pause. John saw this and could barely find words for it. And I think that's the most honest response anyone could have. Because this is not mythology. This is not poetry reaching for dramatic effect. This is a man, writing in real time, describing something so far outside human categories that the language visibly strains under the weight of it. But here's the detail that gives the whole thing away. Every single angelic encounter in Scripture, every one, begins with the same phrase. Do not be afraid, or fear not, or do not be terrified. Ask yourself something before I continue. If angels looked like gentle, soft, winged humans, why would that phrase be necessary? Every single time? Think about it genuinely. If someone walks into a room and they look warm, approachable, non-threatening, do you need to be told, please don't be afraid, before they say anything else? No, you don't. That phrase exists because something about the actual presence of these beings caused an involuntary, full-body terror response in every human being who encountered them. Daniel, whose prophetic visions and resilience are among the most celebrated in ancient Hebrew scripture, a man who survived a den of lions and outlasted multiple kings, collapsed completely unconscious when an angel appeared before him. Not frightened, not startled, unconscious. A man who stared down lions. Unconscious. The "do not be afraid" wasn't a warm greeting. It was emergency stabilization. It was a cosmic being telling a human nervous system, which was actively shutting down, to hold itself together long enough to receive a message. So I'll ask you directly, if that's what angelic presence actually did to human beings, why were you shown something that would never make you feel anything even close to that? This is the part that changed how I see everything we've covered so far. The word angel is not a description of what these beings are. It is a description of their function. It means messenger, and it is also the name of the lowest rank in an entire cosmic hierarchy. Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite, a 5th to 6th century Christian mystic and theologian, who produced the most comprehensive and systematic mapping of celestial beings in early Christian thought, in a text called the Celestial Hierarchy, documented a 9-fold order, drawn from Scripture. Seraphim, cherubim, thrones, dominions. Virtues, powers, principalities, archangels, angels. 9 ranks. And here is the pattern I want you to notice yourself, because I think once you see it, I won't need to explain what it means. The beings at the top of this hierarchy, the seraphim, the cherubim, the thrones, are the ones that look the least human. The burning wheels, the 4-faced guardians, the fire beings covering their own faces. The beings at the bottom, the ones called angels, are the ones that appear most human. The ones with the recognizable face and the 2 wings and the approachable presence. Now follow that pattern to its conclusion yourself. The image you have been shown your entire life, the soft, human-looking winged being, is the lowest rank in a cosmic military structure of 9 levels. You were shown the bottom of the hierarchy and told it was the whole picture. Read that again if you need to. Finally, we get to the part this video was built for, because knowing the real descriptions is one thing. The deeper question, the one that I think genuinely matters, is this: how did the most terrifying beings in all of ancient scripture become greeting card decorations? And who, exactly, benefited from that transformation? Let me give you 3 facts, and before I connect them, I want you to see if you can connect them yourself. 1. The earliest Christian communities, the Desert Fathers, the mystics, the monks who structured their entire existence around the pursuit of the divine, preserved the terrifying descriptions of angels faithfully. They wrote about them with awe and trembling. Their spiritual lives were raw, overwhelming, and deeply uncomfortable. 2. In 313 AD, Emperor Constantine, the Roman emperor whose Edict of Milan converted Christianity from a persecuted underground movement into the official religion of the most powerful empire on earth, fundamentally changed the relationship between spiritual authority and political power. 3. An institution that needs to govern millions of people, needs those people to feel managed, guided, comforted, not cosmically terrified. Now connect those 3 facts yourself, because when Christianity became the religion of an empire, not a movement of radical spiritual seekers, but the organizing framework of a civilization, the experience of the divine had to change. It had to become something that produced order rather than awe, something that brought people into buildings on schedules rather than dropping them unconscious in open fields. A god surrounded by burning, multi-faced, wheel-shaped, eye-covered cosmic entities is not a god that builds compliant citizens. So the drift began, not in one dramatic council meeting, not with a single decree, but slowly, institutionally, aesthetically, through the one channel that bypasses logic and goes directly into the human subconscious. Art. The Council of Nicaea's aftermath, stretching across centuries of doctrinal consolidation, didn't just shape what Christians believed. It shaped what Christians saw, and what they saw, repeated across every cathedral wall and commissioned painting in public space, slowly replaced what they read. Raphael, one of the supreme masters of the Italian Renaissance, whose paintings of angelic figures became the single most replicated spiritual imagery in the entire history of Western art, gave the world soft-faced, graceful, almost luminous winged beings. His images were not just art, they were distributed theology, funded, commissioned, and placed in the most visible spaces of the most powerful institution in Europe. You didn't absorb this image by accident, it was placed in front of you, repeatedly across 5 centuries. In stone, in paint, in stained glass, in print, until the replacement was so total that the original became the obscure thing. The thing you had to go looking for. I'm not calling this a conspiracy in the darkroom, shadowy figures sense. I want to be clear about that. What I'm calling it is something more precise, and in some ways more unsettling, a a slow, aesthetically beautiful, institutionally funded replacement of All with Comfort. And here is what that replacement actually cost. When you remove the terror from the messengers, you remove the weight from the one who sends them. A harmless angel implies a manageable God. A manageable God fits in a building, on a schedule, under the direction of an institution that holds the keys. The desert fathers who trembled before their visions had no use for managed religion. Their faith was ungovernable precisely because what they'd encountered was ungovernable. You cannot put a schedule around something that makes you fall unconscious. That's not a faith that builds empires, but a faith built around a glowing figure with soft wings and a gentle face. That's a faith you can organize. The part that stayed with me longest isn't anything I described. The original descriptions never disappeared. They survived every council, every commission, every Renaissance ceiling. They are sitting right now in texts that are thousands of years old, available to anyone willing to read them slowly and without the filter of a preloaded image. The truth was never destroyed. It was just surrounded by something louder and prettier until most people stopped looking past it. And now I want to ask you something that I genuinely don't have your answer to. If the beings described as servants, as messengers, are that vast, that alien, that incomprehensible, what does that tell you about the nature of what they serve? And if the people managing your access to that picture had a reason to make it smaller, softer, and more manageable, what else might have been quietly resized for you? I'm not going to answer that, because I think that question is worth more to you unanswered than anything I could say next. You were never supposed to be comfortable with the full picture. Comfort was the product being sold, always the thing being replaced. The texts are old, the images are everywhere, but the gap between those two things, that gap is where the real story lives. And before we go any further, if you made it this far into this video, you already think differently than most people. The kind of person who actually questions what they were handed. That's not common, and this channel is built exactly for that kind of person. So if that's you, subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment telling me, did you ever imagine angels actually looked like this? Because the truth was always there, on pages anyone can open, in texts anyone can read. It was just waiting for someone willing to look.